Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I am Tanner Dislin, and as always, I am joined by Sam Godsey, and we are the N326 duo, and we are finally coming back with another episode. Took a long break. We were traveling for the holidays. Hope everybody out there had a great holiday season. If you're in the Midwest, hopefully you're braving the cold and the snow like we are, but we're so happy to be back. Last week we had some work scheduling, couldn't work, so we're finally back with another episode this week, and I could not be more excited. Sam, how are you doing today?
Man, I am doing good. We got the end of the NFL season just wrapped up. College football, college basketball getting into the heat of conference play. It's a great time. Happy to be back. Been a while, like you said, but we are finally back.
Yeah, for sure. So in this episode, we thought we would start with some college football. That season has been over for about a little over a week now. But we thought we still got to cover it. That's what majority of what we've covered all year long, of course, is football and college football. So we'll recap that. We'll talk a little bit about the games, the bowl games, some of the major bowl games, the playoff, of course, coaching changes as well. A lot of things going on in college football in terms of coaches, and then we'll switch to the NFL and talk about the super wild card weekend we just had. And we'll talk about some coaches, some the coaching carousel over in the NFL as well to wrap up the episode. So a lot of football for you, action packed. But of course, before we get to any of that, we gotta start all the way from the top with our winners and losers. Sam, who is your winner of the episode?
Yeah, that I like we've said all since the beginning of this episode. It's been a long time, so I got a lot for y'all in the winner column. This is kind of outdated, but gotta give him props. But Ceedee Lamb went crazy this season. He became the wide receiver for the historic Dallas Cowboys wide receiver room with the most receptions and receiving yards in a single season. He surpassed Michael Irving in both of those, and he finished first in the league with 135 receptions, second with 1,749 yards and 12 touchdowns. So, obviously not the season the Cowboys, the season ending, the Cowboys wanted it to be, but can't overlook how impactful Ceedee Lamb was for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, a little unfortunate timing that you had to be
Yeah.
talking about it today of all days, but absolutely, and specifically the first game after our last episode was the game against the Lions, of course.
Yeah.
Not without controversy, but Ceedee Lamb went crazy
Yeah.
in that game. I know I played against him in fantasy in the playoffs. Another heartbreaking second place finish for your boy back to back years. Don't want to talk about it, but yeah, Ceedee Lamb went absolutely crazy that week and historical season, as you said. Um, you got any more winners
Yeah,
for
man.
the
We got a
multiple
lot
multiple weeks
we got
we've
a
been away?
lot of history being made. Honestly, this whole winner group could be wrapped up as record breakers. Of course, we all know the story of Caitlin Clark, Iowa's own, putting women's basketball on the map, putting on a absolute show. Actually playing right now against unranked Wisconsin. But a couple weeks ago, she played Minnesota on uh, at the end of 2023, where she dropped 35 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. She became the Big Ten's all-time assist leader. She also became the first Division I player, both men's or women's, with 3,000 plus points, 900 plus assists, and 800 rebounds in a career. And then she went out and followed that up with a 40-point game against Michigan State, including the half court pull up J in the defender's face. And then since then, she's had the game after that. They went to play Rutgers, absolutely kicked the crap out of them. With Caitlin in 29 minutes, had 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. And then she followed that performance up with another triple-double, 26, 10, and 10. And then against 14 Indiana, put on an absolute clinic, 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 assists. So she is just absolutely hoping right now. It's unbelievable what she has done for the sport. Best college basketball player, period.
Ever.
Men or women, doesn't matter. She's insane. If you haven't watched her, what are you doing? But yeah, of course, I feel like she's a constant winner for this pod, but what she's doing for the sport's unbelievable.
Yeah, speaking of, I mean, all those records that she holds. We're watching the current game. I was playing Wisconsin as we speak. She's 10 points from passing Brittany Griner
Yeah,
on the all-time scoring list. So probably another one.
yeah,
coming
probably.
soon.
I don't
Although
know.
not
10
first,
points,
but
you know.
yeah, it's tough for Kate. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe 3 minutes of actual game time. But,
Yeah.
yeah, she's absolutely deserving. She's the best. They absolutely kicked the crap out of 14 Indiana, as you said, a big time rivalry game there after the game last year when Caitlin hit the buzzer beater. And then Iowa came out and just stomped them to the curb and earning a number 2 spot. Dropping dimes, and she smokes the light as we
Classic.
Classic. But any other ones, man? It's just
Yeah.
keep them rolling. Keep them rolling.
More
Keep them rolling.
sports, record-breaking things in sports. We got our guy Erik Spoelstra of the Miami Heat signed a 8-year extension worth more than $120 million, which
Insane.
is not just the highest amount of money that's ever been committed to an NBA coach, but any North American coach of any sport.
That's insane. I mean, does coach's salary count against like luxury tax and salary cap?
Right? Maybe not salary cap, but look,
I'm sure luxury
I don't
tax.
know. That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious about that, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, bro got a like a role player plus
Yeah.
salary. Like,
And the best part about it, he signed this extension like 8 days after he got divorced. So he kept all that. So shout out Miami for that one.
Looking out for my boy Spoelstra.
Yeah. And perhaps the biggest news of all of college sports. Today we got the greatest news of all time. The greatest video game is officially coming back. College football 24 is coming back July 12th, 2024.
Set your calendars.
Set your calendars. Set your alarms. Make sure you grab the next gen because unfortunately it's not going to be on the PS4 and the Xbox One. So make sure you get that new console because you know all of your friends are going to be playing with it. Road to Glory Dynasty, hoping it's all coming back new and improved. Hopefully not too much like Madden, but I'm excited. I think the whole sports gaming community is excited. I think everybody's honestly excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now my winner.
There you go.
Guess what? We're going to stick with the record-breaking theme, and we're going to stick with the Iowa theme. I'm going to go with men's basketball coach Fran McCaffery, who picked up his 272nd win as head coach of the Iowa men's basketball team, becoming the all-time winningest coach in program history. And it was a pretty cool moment. You could see how much it meant to him. And Fran McCaffery and I haven't always seen eye to eye on things on the basketball court. Let's just say I've called for his job a time or two. And I think when the hate is that loud, so does the praise needs to be that loud as well. He's done a very nice job overall as Iowa's head coach, of course, coming off of the Todd Licklider days.
Brutal.
That the program was in the dumps. He has at least risen it from that. And even this year in 2023, 2024, this team started out brutal. You and I were at the Iowa State game where they just got curb stomped and it was miserable. But now they've won 3 straight conference games. They started out 0-3 in the conference. Now they're up to 3-3. They're playing good ball. They just won a game at Minnesota. They've won at the barn for 3 straight years. That's the first time they've won in Minnesota for 3 straight years since like the 50s, 40s or 50s. It's real impressive what the team is looking like now. I think wins over Rutgers, Minnesota, and Nebraska ball, who came off of a big win against Purdue as well. So the team looked like it's turning around a little bit. And of course, a main reason for that is Coach McCaffery. So got to give him his flowers when things are going pretty well. And yeah, he is your now all-time winningest head coach in Iowa men's basketball history.
Yeah. Fran McCaffery's, like you said, we aren't the biggest fans of Fran, to say the least. A lot of disappointment when we had plenty of talent in the postseason, but you can't take away from what he's done for the Iowa basketball program. You talked about how bad the Todd Licklider years were. It wasn't much better before him with Steve Alford. He was here since 99 to 07. He was terrible, to say the least. But yeah, Fran's built a program in a pretty good college basketball conference and produced a lot of talent. Obviously highlighted by Luka Garza, college player of the year, guys going to the NBA, Keegan Murray.
Number 4 overall draft pick, Keegan Murray.
Absolutely.
Chris Murray, top 20 draft pick. Yeah, real impressive stuff. And you look at it in as a whole. So
yeah,
shout out Fran McCaffery. Don't hear me say that often, so savor it all, everybody out there, because yeah, I don't say that often, but real nice job from Fran. He deserves his flowers after again setting the record for most wins as Iowa's men's basketball coach. But let's take a look on the negative side of things, shall we, Sam? Who is your loser/losers, given the way the winners went? I assume it'll be losers for the past like 4 weeks or so.
Yeah. This was a while back, start of the new year. Talk about starting your new year in the worst way possible. I think they take the crown for it, and that is College of Biblical Studies women's basketball team. They played Grambling State and lost 159 to 18. Grambling State had 8 players in double figures. 13 of them scored. They averaged 1 steal per minute of the game, and they average a shot every 20 seconds. College of Biblical Studies had 18% from the field, 7.7% from the 3, 7% from the free throw, 7. Oh. And perhaps the worst stat of it all is 52 turnovers.
No way.
Swear.
Oh my
Check the box score.
52 turnovers.
52 turnovers.
That is insane.
Yeah, not great.
Not great.
They at one point Grambling State was winning 34-0. Did not allow an opponent's first points until the 2-minute mark of the opening quarter.
Jeez.
Kind of brutal.
Kind of brutal, just like this charge call, even though her entire foot was in the restricted area. But yeah, that's not good. That is not good for the College of Biblical Studies.
Yeah, kind of brutal.
Kind of brutal. You got any others?
No, that's all. I decided to go crazy with the winners. I feel like it's more fun talking about that, but we're going to talk about some big losers later on in the episode.
Big time.
Definitely could fit in here, but thought we'd save that for later.
I think I might go with 2 losers.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go crazy. I mean, yeah, not as crazy as you did, but I'm going to have the 2 losers. First one is going to be college basketball teams in the top 10, except for UConn. Because this past week was an insane week for top 10 NCAA basketball teams. They pretty much all lost. Did they all lose outside of UConn?
UNC
UNC won.
both of their games in the past.
UNC didn't
week.
lose, but everyone
else did.
and that included 4 of the top 5. Of course, the one that didn't being UConn. Number 1, Purdue lost to Nebraska. Was number 2 was that Houston?
Yep.
Lost to Iowa State. Number 3.
They also lost to TCU.
Oh, they also lost to TCU.
Yeah.
And then number 3 was
Kansas.
But number 3 was Kansas. They lost
Yep.
to Central Florida. And then number 4, UConn. And then number 5 was
Tennessee.
Yep.
Yep.
Tennessee. So not good stuff. And then shortly after, number 6, Kentucky lost to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So 5 of the top 6 all lost. Everyone except for UConn and UNC lost. Real rough go of it for top 10 teams this past week. That's what makes college basketball.
That's what makes college basketball the best. It's
the
giving
absolute
us a
best.
preview of March Madness. I think this year is gonna be one of the craziest. But yeah,
It should be.
it's gonna
Absolutely
be
should
crazy.
be.
It always is, but I feel like this year's just different.
Always, right? It always is this way with college basketball. It's the best. We've said it a million times. But my other loser of the episode is going to be she's the leader of a frequent loser on this episode, and that is Kim Mulkey, head coach of LSU women's basketball. Of course, LSU women's basketball and Iowa women's basketball tend to not get along the best after their matchup in the national championship game a year ago. But Kim Mulkey, out of nowhere in an interview, said something along the lines of her team doesn't have players that shoot 40 times a game like you see across the country. Of course, clearly referring to Caitlin Clark, who does shoot a lot because she is incredible at the sport, and Iowa is at their best when she is shooting the ball. And she decided to take a shot at Caitlin Clark. By the way, they just showed some of her stats on the game we're watching here. And she is 100th percentile in assists. She is 95th percentile in 2-point field goal percentage and 83rd percentile in 3-point field goal percentage. Does that sound like someone who takes a million shots and hurts the team because of it?
Yeah.
The all-time leader of assists in Iowa women's basketball history. And to put a cherry on top, then their very next game after she said those things, totally out of pocket, they went ahead and they lost to Auburn.
Yeah.
And
that was awesome.
That was awesome.
I
That was
enjoyed
awesome.
that quite a bit.
So
Karma's a bitch.
Might want to worry about your team there, Kim, and not the other team, by the way, who is 17-1, number 2 in the nation, and just beat the living crap out of Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. She's not the only one that talks shit about Iowa.
God, no.
South Carolina's coach sent out a tweet about giving the ref the ball after hitting a game winner when Caitlin Clark hit that crazy one. And basically a bunch of Iowa fans went after her, and she was seen blocking every single one of them.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name, but you know who she is.
Dawn Staley.
Dawn Staley, thank you. I knew.
Yep.
I knew. What?
One of us will get it.
Yep. But yeah, a lot of losers, a lot of winners.
Everybody's got to be mad about Iowa. Doesn't matter the sport. Got to be mad about Iowa.
Yep.
But I think we're finally done with the winners and losers. Nice little recap of some things that happened over the past 4 weeks or so.
And I'm sure we're missing some.
And I'm sure we're missing a lot. We are missing a lot. But let's talk some ball, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Can we skip one?
No, we're talking about that one. But we'll start on the college side of things. We'll skip 2. We want to skip 2 because we have an ugly one on the college side of things as well. That's what we'll start. We'll just get it out of the way. Iowa played Tennessee. Played Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. Iowa finished the perfect season. 3 games, 12 quarters, 0 points against ranked opponents. Who's doing that?
Who else doing that?
Only Iowa.
Hey.
And they are now searching for an offensive coordinator, a position that has been vacant for almost 80 days.
Yeah. So?
Or a position where we known it was going to be vacant for almost 80 days. We'll talk about this a little bit. No, we'll save it for later. But yeah, so the position has been vacant for 80 days. They have not made a
Okay.
decision, no idea who it is. A team that needs massive, massive offensive changes, and you don't know who's going to lead it, and it's already the new year.
Bro, we got Luke Lachey coming back now.
We do have Luke Lachey
Come
coming
on.
back. We have Cade McNamara
Cade
coming
Mack-
back.
Yeah.
We do not have Eric All coming
And
back.
Grease Boy Deke. Come on now.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Deacon
And
Hill,
Marco.
statistically the worst quarterback in Division One this year. Where do we want to start with this game?
Let's start here. Our leading rusher was our backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Goat.
Our backup quarterback,
Marco Lane, shout out.
where we were told, quote, what's the upside to playing him? Where we were told that Deacon Hill gives us the best chance to win. We were
He
told
practices good.
that Deacon Hill practices better than him, and Marco Lanes came in and did nothing but make plays. Was our leading rusher, like you said, despite playing one quarter, if that, less than a quarter, half a quarter.
I don't think it was a quarter.
I don't think it was a full quarter either.
Because it was late in the fourth because everyone was like, why is Deacon still in? I do remember that.
Yeah. So it's a coaching staff who has definitely put no faith in the fans that they're making the right decision for the team. Seems like they're making they're making decisions because they want to be right. The reason they left Deacon in, the reason they started Deacon is because they told us Deacon was going to start, not because they thought he would give us the best chance to win, but they can't stand being wrong. So that's when things get really dicey. Of course, Brian Ferentz, this was his last game as Iowa's offensive coordinator. Shout out. The bad man is dead. He's gone. Get out of here. Never want to see your stupid face again. Kirk is still here. I mean, it seemed, at least to me, granted, I've been on the game has passed Kirk Ferentz train for a very long time now. This Tennessee game seemed to be a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. What's not embarrassing, though, is you said Caitlin Clark needed 5 points?
She needed 10.
10. Okay, she's halfway there. She's halfway there at the end of the first. So we'll keep y'all updated on that. But back to this game, yeah, absolutely embarrassing. Yeah, I mean it's what we've seen all year. Our defense looked good, I guess. Not the best defensive performance. I'm not going to shy away from that. But when your offense goes out there year in, year out, game in, game out, and produces 173 yards, it's hard to keep going for 2 for 15 on third down, basically giving one of the best defenses all year zero rest. It's hard to keep going when the other team has the ball for 30 minutes and somehow we had 28. I don't believe that. But I gotta give props where props is due. Tennessee didn't have Joe Milton. He decided to opt out of this game, and I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. Nico Iamaleve. Is that the new DJ Uyungale? It's gonna take us 6 years. Nico. He looked freaking good.
He looked
man.
awesome.
Very, very comfortable in the pocket. Made plays on his feet when he needed to, and he was kind of carving up our secondary. Yeah, I mean, we can really dive deep into it, but you know where we stand with this football team. Absolutely embarrassing that they prepped a whole month of the season to do this, not even put up 3. And we had opportunities. I remember early in the game,
Deacon Hill's interception.
Deacon Hill, shocker to literally no one. But yeah, absolutely embarrassing. But as embarrassing as this game is, it's even more embarrassing. We haven't had a offensive coordinator hired this offseason. But hey, we got an assistant to head coach.
Sick. It's so, like you said, the only word is embarrassing. We are a punchline now. We got people taking shots at Iowa because it's funny. because it's an absolute joke of a program. That's where we are right now because of the brain dead retirement home head coach we currently have who thinks the year is 1940. That's the state of Iowa football. And of course, the minute you get absolutely embarrassed on a national stage, you do not score a single point against a ranked opponent all year long, to which you only played 3. Again, 3 is a hilariously low amount of ranked opponents. That is a unbelievably easy schedule. You didn't score a single point. You got less than 200 yards in this game against a bad Tennessee defense. This is not a good defense by any stretch of the imagination. And then the first thing out of his mouth, well, we had a good season. No, you didn't. No, you did not. Yeah, you won 10 games. You won 10 games against Minnesota, Purdue, and frickin' Northwestern. That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. Tell me how many games you win next year when you have to play Ohio State, Michigan State, when you got to play Washington. Like, Michigan State's going to be better than they were this year. So you'll probably lose that game too. Northwestern will be better. Like, this Iowa team, if they don't make crazy changes, is going to be awful next year.
Let's be honest.
This is good. So we'll go back to that. Oh, we won 10 games. Yeah, because you played crap. Crap, slightly better crap beats crap.
And we barely beat majority. Yeah.
Really frustrating. And then, but on the other side of things, if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to be real excited about Nico. Not going to try that last name.
No, you have to.
Nico Iamaleava.
I think that sounds right.
But he looked really good, dynamic with his legs, 3 rushing touchdowns. He'll only develop more as a passer. I'd be very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Against one, like I said, and I don't think anybody can argue, one of the best defenses in all of college football.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll keep moving on because we can just keep taking shots at Iowa football all day long, but we won't.
Unlike Deacon Hill.
Unlike Deacon Hill. Man. Anyway, we'll move on to Georgia, Florida State. It was a big time game for the national storylines out there, specifically surrounding Florida State, but also a little bit around Georgia, talking about did they get the right teams for the playoff, yada, yada, yada. Of course, Florida State looked like they didn't want to be there. They had a ton of opt-outs.
They had 24 opt-outs around there.
A ton of opt-outs, and the game was absolutely brutal. 63-3, Georgia won.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows you Georgia was one of the best 4 teams in college.
They were.
The fact they weren't in, I do think the committee did get it right, but this is why it's expanding because Georgia they slipped up once, and I think that's a story for another day. But yeah, Tanner, Florida State didn't give a fuck. I mean, pardon my French, but nobody wanted to be there. I mean, you put 3 more points in Iowa. Like, come on, bro. It was so clear who the better team was, which we all knew who was the better team. But personally, if I get screwed over going into college football playoffs, I'm having everyone come back and try to beat Georgia. I think the whole narrative switches. If you even compete with Georgia, you don't even have to win, just compete.
And people, Starling, Jake March, it's
a must compete. It truly was a must compete because nobody gave Florida State a shot in this one. Let's be honest. And they went out there and looked like a middle school team playing a Division I football team, just absolutely ransacked. And let's be honest, Tanner, Georgia just made it look effortless. I mean, their backup quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, was 6 for 10, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I can look at the stats, but y'all can too. It was just an absolute ass kicking. It was very clear Florida State wanted nothing to do with this game, especially with all the opt-outs. But this is why I unfortunately think we're going to see a lot more of this in college football postseason. Unfortunately, I just think that's going to be how it is. But I mean, Georgia is this is this just proving how much better they are than it was the gap between 4 and 6? I don't know. Just an absolute dog walk by the Dogs.
Yeah, for me, this is a clear warning sign to the NCAA is that this is the route your sport is going, with just unmitigated action in the transfer portal, no rules, no nothing. You'll get this, and it's such an easy fix. It's really frustrating. Because if someone wants to sit out, if someone sits out because they think they're going to the NFL draft, not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
Fine. If someone sits out because they're entered the transfer portal, that's BS.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy fix. Ready? Transfer portal doesn't open till after the season. Tell me imagine in the
You're
NBA,
crazy.
imagine the NFL if they're entering the playoffs and they're like, yeah, free agency's open. Like, you can go sign wherever you want.
Yeah.
Do it. What kind of crap is that? That's awful. I cannot believe that this is the system we have now. Transfer portal absolutely should open. Caitlin Clark looks to be slow getting up, but she's good. The transfer portal absolutely has to open after the season, after bowl games are played. Limit number of transfers. You had a system for the longest time in college sports where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year.
Yeah.
Nobody did it. You remember that? Wow, what a time. Maybe you give them one transfer on the house, right? One transfer you can just go and play. But any transfer after that one, you have to wait a year. Yeah. I guarantee you they plummet. You think Dylan Gabriel's transferring from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
If he has to sit out a year to go play at Oregon? Of course not. It's insane what we have now, and it's such a goddamn easy fix. It is brutal right now. But that's what this game said to me. It said, "Dear NCAA, fix this crap."
Yeah, absolutely. It was that really was the message of this game.
However, there is something to be said, as you kind of alluded to, Sam. Both teams felt like they should have got in, right? I think the world thought Florida State had a better case than Georgia, but both teams felt like they should have gone in. One team said, F this, the system is rigged, I'm not playing. One team said, F you, I'm going to show you why we're one of the top 4 teams, and went out and beat the living crap out of the other.
Yeah.
Which program do you want to play for?
Yeah.
I know for me, it's a clear answer. And that's kind of frustrating from
Iowa.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, that's right. Iowa, where you can be a fat, out of shape loser and you won't lose your job. But that's another one of my takeaways. If you're a recruit and you're looking at this and you're deciding between Florida State and Georgia, one team packed it in. One team said, let's go win a damn football game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any more thoughts on the absolute shellacking?
No.
Let's talk about some playoff games.
Yeah.
Huh? We will start. Which one do you want to start? You want to go in chronological order?
Yeah, let's go chronological.
All right. So we'll start with the Rose Bowl, Alabama and Michigan. I went on record saying that this was the college football semifinal game I was most looking forward to. And it went to overtime. It did not disappoint. Wolverines, of course, won this game 27-20.
Yeah, before I kick off the analysis of this college football playoff as a whole, this was by far the best 4 we've had. Both games were awesome. Went down the wire. That's stupid.
Logo Clark.
That's stupid.
For all those wondering.
But this game was awesome. Came down to wire. Two of the best teams going down to wire. Came up short. The play call, but Jalen Milroe, not great showing from him.
Did not look good.
16 for 23, 116 yards, 0 touchdowns, both rushing and throwing. Didn't throw a pick, but definitely wasn't the guy we've seen throughout the season. He looked like a Heisman caliber quarterback, and he just was not playing well this game, to put it lightly. It pissed me off that Michigan ended up winning this one. Terrible play call, terrible snap by Alabama. The problems they had with their snap, their center was unexcusable. How many low snaps, muff snaps did Alabama have? I really do think that played into the production of the offense, especially down quarterback draw late in the game. But as much as I like to bash Bama and their poor offensive production, JJ McCarthy, 17 for 27, 3 tuds. Um, I kind of mentioned this, Tanner. I mentioned if Alabama makes JJ McCarthy make plays with his arm and not just handing the ball off, I like Alabama a lot. And JJ McCarthy proved me freaking wrong. Let me tell you. Looked great this game. Obviously helps when you have a guy like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in your backfield. Blake Corum kind of played better than did play better than Donovan Edwards. He's kind of been a dog since he walked on Michigan's campus. But yeah, I mean, Alabama somewhat took away that dominant rushing attack, and Michigan still found a way.
Yeah, I think you nailed that that analysis there. I mean, Jalen Milroe did not look good, as you said. Didn't really throw the ball worth a crap. Like they had nothing through their passing game. He was okay in the rushing game, of course, and Alabama was much better on the ground than they were through the air throughout the course of this game. But for me, the game comes out of two plays, and it was the fumble from Jalen Milroe when Alabama had the ball up 7 and was driving. They were in plus territory. I think it was in either in the third or the fourth quarter. It was definitely in the second half, and he fumbled, and that was a big momentum shift in the game. I think Michigan obviously recovered it, but they missed the field goal. But it was a complete reset of field position, and obviously Alabama was probably going to come away with points on that drive. Michigan shortly then tied it, and then we went to overtime. And then the second one, of course, is that final play call in overtime, as you said. Always starts with the center. As you said, center was going through it. Multiple bad snaps, multiple drop snaps, putting Alabama behind the sticks in scramble situations. Like it was bad. And it's hard to run an efficient offense when your center can't get your quarterback the football. But on that last play, it was a pretty clear play design, I thought, where kind of motioned everything going one way and you had your back slipping out the other way, and all he had to do was beat the linebacker one-on-one to the pylon. And that's what the play was. And I think the low snap, once Milroe saw the low snap, he just panicked and abandoned it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he should have done that. I think he should have stuck with it. The play was there, and trust your running back to make a play. He didn't. He completely abandoned it and decided he was going to run it himself. So I think a lot of this game is on Milroe, but of course you got to give some credit to Michigan's defense, the best unit in college football. They were incredible in this game. Alabama's offense was absolutely humming before this, and on the back of Milroe, of course. But yeah, for me, those two plays, and neither team was at their best. People were using it as a rallying cry to get Florida State in because neither team looked great, and they're like, "Wow, if only we could get someone who could play this well." Anyway, well, neither team was at their best. Michigan found a way to win on the back of JJ McCarthy, as you said. Not as much the running game as we all thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But moving on to the later semifinal game, Washington versus Texas. Obviously, another banger. Washington came away with this win 37-31.
Michael Penix Jr. had the best college football performance of the year in this game. The throws he was making to his receiving core, specifically Rome Odunze, he looked like he could do no wrong in this game. Absolutely amazing performance by him. Came down to the wire, just like Michigan, Alabama. And Michael Penix, man, carried this Washington Husky team. Obviously, that was the story with Washington. Obviously, a Pac-12 team doesn't have a very strong defense. You just got outscored the other team. And Phoenix led the offense, and seriously one of the greatest college football performances I've seen in a while. 430 yards, 2 tuds, and most importantly, 0 interceptions. Got some help from Dylan Johnson in the backfield, carried 2 in to help them. But got a shout out there too. Lean receivers. Roma Dunze, I mentioned, had 125 yards with an average of 20.8 per reception. And Jalen Polk, 5 receptions, 122 with 1 touchdown. It seemed like this Washington offense was unstoppable and led by Michael Penix.
Yeah, I mean, the story of this game starts and ends with number 9. Unbelievable. He was magnificent. Everything was on time. It was on target. It was thrilling to watch, especially as a team who's looking to draft a quarterback in this year's upcoming draft. It was very exciting to watch. You mentioned everything. Their defense, you're never going to get a top flight performance out of Washington's defense. I thought they were more impressive than the 31 points say on the scoreboard. It should have been a lot less. This game did get close at the end. It absolutely shouldn't have been close, but it did. But I any time talking about something in this game that isn't Michael Penix is wasted time when you could have been talking about Michael Penix because he was awesome. You look on the flip side of things, someone like Quinn Ewers way less efficient, right? 24 for 43, 318. I mean, he still slings the rock because he's Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have some sort of air raid offense out of Steve Sarkisian in Texas. But yeah, nowhere near as efficient as number 9. 430 and 2 touchdowns. That is insane stuff out of Penix and was absolutely the reason why Washington won this game. I was playing Wisconsin on the TV. So that set up our national championship game. Michigan, Washington, 2 best teams in college football, according to the records. They were both the 2 undefeateds. 14-0 versus 14-0. Michigan comes out. Hail to the victors, the national champions, 34-13.
You know what we just said about Michael Penix, how amazing he was. He flipped the switch off in this one. Went 27 for 51, 255 yards, 1 tud, 2 interceptions. Obviously, we saw him banged up, but it just wasn't the same Penix we've seen all year, just slinging the damn thing and making it look effortless. Obviously, didn't see that. We mentioned how good J.J. McCarthy was in the passing game. Did nothing this game. Blake Corum, it returned to the Michigan we've seen all year. 303 rushing yards led by Blake Corum, put on an absolute clinic from the backfield. 21 carries, 134 yards, 2 tuds. Personally, I think he was one of the most underrated. As much love as this Michigan rushing attack got, it seemed people overlooked how truly dominant Blake Corum could be because he is paired with probably the second best running back, Donovan Edwards. But they combined for 238 yards combined for 27 carries and 4 touchdowns. So, tale of 2 games, really, for both teams. One being unbelievable on offense, and then meeting a Big Ten defense in Michigan, probably the best in the country. I mean, I guess, but yes, they by far were shut down one of the most prolific offenses, led by one of the most prolific quarterbacks. And then on the Michigan side, the defense was always there. We knew that coming into both of these games. But the fact they could go from almost a pass first team, Tanner, to a run first and be dominant in both ways was truly impeccable, impressive. I got to shout out, as much as I don't like the guy, Jim Harbaugh coached 2 fantastic games, and that's why him and his Wolverines are crowned champions at the end of this.
Yeah, this is what Michigan wanted to do. This was the Michigan when they're at their best, is what they did in this game. 443 yards of offense for Michigan in this game, 140 passing yards. That's scary hours when you're playing Michigan.
Yeah.
You mentioned Blake Corum, obviously far and away the best player on this Michigan offense. Donovan Edwards would be a starting running back on pretty much every other team in the nation.
Yeah.
The dude is a beast.
He's a dog.
He's just behind Blake Corum.
Yeah. He is a bigger dog.
And we saw that in this game. JJ McCarthy was the guy he was the guy in the group project who didn't do anything and got an A.
Yeah.
He showed up. He didn't throw any interceptions. And just
Game manager.
Exactly.
And he does a damn good job at it.
He did a very, very good job of it in this game. Switching over to Michael Penix, you said it. As good as he was against Texas, that's how bad he was in this game. It would have been one thing if he was constantly under pressure, if he was having to bail out of the pocket, make decisions.
Yeah.
Sure, Michigan's pass rush got to him more than Texas did. But wide open receivers were missed, Sam.
Yeah.
The fourth down to Adunze, wide open, overshot him. Big time swing game. Probably would have been a touchdown if they're able to connect on that pass. There was a pass in the end zone on the opening drive where Adunze had a step and he overshot him there as well. Very uncharacteristic out of Penix. I don't know what happened. Maybe just the intimidation factor of Michigan was enough to get him off his rhythm. I really don't know what it was.
Flashbacks from his Indiana days.
Yeah,
baby.
right?
Yeah.
The flashback from his Indiana days. Although when he was in Indiana, they beat Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
But yeah, it was really weird to see, and it sucks because it would have been great to see the nation's best defense go against a Michael Penix that's slinging the damn rock all over the place. But it's not what we got. However, it is worth mentioning the game was a lot closer than 34-13 shows. It was a 7-point game, like halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When I believe it was a turnover from Washington led to a touchdown, and then I believe it was a pick six as Washington was really trying to get back in the game down 14. But sorry, we're getting distracted with Iowa basketball. Of course, the number 2 ranked Hawkeyes, they're up 43-28 over Wisconsin, looking damn good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got in this game. It was the Michigan does Michigan things. They stop the other team and they run the damn football.
Yeah.
And they let JJ McCarthy just manage the game. That's when Michigan's at their best, and that's what they're able to do in this game, for sure.
Yeah. It was a fun out of the she's so good. By the way, she scored 10 points if y'all were wondering.
Podcasting while your favorite team, who's also number 2 in the nation, is playing is not easy work.
But this was by far the best 4-team playoff we've seen. I don't think it's even close.
People are going to have some sort of revisionist history where they look back and it's like, wow, Michigan, Washington, 34-13. It was not that lopsided, but
yeah. I mean,
it was.
I'd take two amazing semifinals and maybe get an okay championship.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather two's better than one. Usually we get a curb stomping and
2 curb stompings,
and then a decent game or a good game.
Yeah, last year it flipped. Remember, every single year before that, it was like Alabama versus like the number 4
Washington.
It was Washington. It was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It was Michigan State one year, like, and they beat the crap out of them. Then 2 versus 3 would be some other game where the same thing would happen. I think we had Michigan, Georgia. Georgia beat the crap out of Michigan. I think that was K. McNamara actually. But last year we had the awesome semifinal games.
Yeah.
Michigan TCU, high scoring affair. And then we had the Ohio State Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome movie stuff on the East Coast. that field goal missed
Oh,
right as the clock struck
yeah.
midnight.
I
It
do
was
remember that.
insane timing. But yeah, and then the final TCU, of course,
Yeah.
got
Rip.
ransacked by
Yeah.
Georgia.
I do like the new schedule though. I was a fan of that. Because what day did they play New Year's Day?
They played New Year's Day
I
because New Year's Eve this year was a Sunday, so the NFL had it.
NFL runs all.
NFL runs all.
I was wondering why they switch that, but it makes sense.
It'll pretty much always be New Year's Eve unless it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
They'll switch it to New Year's Day. Gotcha. Yeah. But we got a lot of movement in the head coaching portal. There's all the transfer portal, and there's the head coaching portal. Some teams or some coaches that are switching teams. Some we had talked about on the podcast already. Some we hadn't. Indiana went out and got Curt Cignetti from James Madison. He did an excellent job with the Dukes, of course. Made a bowl game this year when everyone took on the NCAA, waged war against the NCAA to get James Madison bowl eligible. They succeeded. So that was pretty awesome. Great job from him. He's going up to Indiana. Northwestern actually went and made David Braun their full-time head coach. He removed the interim tag. He was awesome. Both of us definitely way too harsh on him when we did our power rankings of Big Ten coaches.
Yeah, that was tough.
Fantastic job. Also, shout out him for cashing my last Super Dog of the year. Northwestern, another one wins outright. Michigan State went out and got Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. Yeah. Another great job he did with the Beavs. They were a top 15 team all year. DJU was under center for him. That team was quite good. Texas A&M, they went and got Mike Elko, another great hire in my opinion. He was at Duke. He did a great job with Duke. They had a great start to the season this year. Fell off a little bit, got injured, which sucks. Ryder Leonard, of course, was out for a lot of the second half of the year. But Mike Elko did a great job at Duke, so he's on his way to College Station. The big one. The big one. Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's head coach. Absolute stunner. Didn't think I'd ever see the day. It's kind of a shame that Jim Harbaugh, of course, had to be the last one. Put the nail in the coffin on Nick Saban. They went and got Kalen DeBeer from Washington. Incredible job at Washington. Obviously, national championship game a year ago. So that's about as good as you get. Alabama's head coaching position was vacant for less than 48 hours.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
Less than 48 hours.
Can you imagine going into that job though?
How do you do it?
I wouldn't want that job.
I feel like you couldn't. Like, I don't. I mean, I get it. Bama's Bama, but it seems like very much a lose-lose situation. You go into Bama, replace Nick Saban. You leave a team where you just lost in the national title game. You were undefeated all year long. Like, everyone in Washington hates you.
Yeah.
If you don't live up to Nick Saban, which is very possible because no one lives up to Nick Saban, everyone in Alabama is going to hate you. It seems like there's a lot of ways in which this goes wrong for Kalen DeBeer, but he took it, so he is now leading the Tide. Expected to take a lot of his staff with him. Of course, Ryan Grubb, a name that a lot of Iowa fans are monitoring, expected to go to Alabama. So I don't think he's coming here. And then lastly, Washington, to replace their new vacant head coaching position, they go out to Arizona and they get Jed Fish. Again, another great job with the Wildcats, a team that we talked about a lot as the hottest team in college football in the second half, beating Oklahoma in their bowl game. Did some work in that Pac-12 in the second half of the year. Jed Fish going up to Seattle to replace DeBeer. So,
I mean,
any of those stand out to you as?
I mean, I think the obvious one is going to be that Alabama. I think another kind of crazy one that was kind of expected, but didn't think the school would pull the plugs. Jimbo Fisher, being canned or mutually parted, basically canned from Texas A&M getting that massive buyout. But obviously, kind of out of the blue, Nick Saban hangs it up. The greatest college football coach of all time finally hangs it up. Career that included 7 natties, 12 conference championships, 11 in the SEC, and 1 when he was with Toledo in the MAC, 19 bowl game wins, and never had a losing season. His worst season being 96 and 98 at Michigan State, where they finished 500. His all-time record is 292 and 71 and 1. We can talk about Nick Saban, what impact he's had, how many, all his accolades. We'd be here and the podcast would be 3 hours. But it's crazy. It's gonna be weird without him. Two great college, or 2 faces of football, the sport of football, hanging it up. We'll talk about the other one later on in the episode, but it's gonna be weird without Nick Saban on the Alabama sideline for sure.
For sure, I am praying and hoping that game day makes a big deal to get Saban on. Love to hear him talk about games. Maybe phase out Lee Corso a little bit. Seems like he's on his way out, of course, with his age. But it seemed like that would be a good spot for Nick Saban to stay in all of our minds and stay within college football. I like to bring some attention to Washington's hire, because I think it's a real impressive thing when your head coach unexpectedly leaves like that, for a job that was unexpectedly vacant less than 48 hours before he actually left. And you're able to go and make a hire like Jed Fish. I think that's a really good job from Washington. But yeah, so Washington's head coaching job was vacant for less than a couple days. Alabama's head coaching job was vacant for less than a couple days. I know the jobs aren't exactly apples to apples, but Iowa's offensive coordinator position will be vacant for about 80 days.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Our best offense is our defense, which we tied that down.
There you go. Yes. Phil Parker getting a little bit of a raise. Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, we trust.
Yeah.
But that's going to put a bow on this 2023 NCAA football season. The lone tear rolling down Sam's face. It sucks. But soon enough, Saturdays will be back. Electricity in the air will be back. It got me thinking about the entirety of this season. Do you remember against Utah State when Cade McNamara threw like a 50-yard touchdown pass to a wide open Seth Anderson? It was the transfer portal, and it seemed like we were so back and we were going to be.
Oh boy, were we wrong?
Oh boy, were we wrong? Granted, injuries had a big role to play with that, but still, not a good showing from them. And all roads lead back to Iowa.
And no more Tory Taylor.
And no more Tory Taylor.
We did get another Aussie from the same punting academy that Tory went.
How did we not mention this when we're talking about awards and nominations? Tory Taylor.
Yeah.
I think he got both the all-time career punting yards record, and the single season punting yards record in the game against Tennessee.
Yeah. So, punting is winning unless you're playing a ranked opponent.
Correct. Punting is winning as long as you play a heaping pile of dog shit as a football team. Then punting is winning.
Yeah.
If you play anyone with a pulse, punting is losing, i.e. a ranked team, or apparently Minnesota, allegedly. That was not a fair catch. But do we move on to the NFL? Should we, Sam? Should we?
How's the Vikings?
Hey, all right. Fair enough. I understand you're hurting. That was a cheap shot. We had Super Wildcard weekend this past weekend. Due to weather in Buffalo, New York, we ended up with an altered schedule, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 2 Monday. So that is the order in which
how it should have been from the beginning.
Seems like that makes a lot of sense, but hey, that's just us. We'll start Saturday afternoon. Texans Browns. What I thought was going to be an underratedly good game. That was wrong. It was an absolute blowout. It was a shit pumping. Texans beat the crap out of the Browns 45-14.
Stroud boys, stand up, baby.
Stroud boys,
CJ Stroud, how you doing? Obviously, you know me and Tanner have always been on the board of CJ Stroud being better than Bryce Young. The Panthers made a mistake. CJ Stroud just won the Texans a playoff football game. Huh? Yeah. CJ Stroud looked unbelievable this game. 16 for 21, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Nico Collins being that main receiver for CJ Stroud. Talk about a great draft for the Texans. CJ Stroud, they got who's their quarterback
the edge rusher?
Will Anderson.
Absolute
dog.
Man. Absolute beast.
I mean, this team's so fun, man. I love it. They also got another dude. He's Derek Stingley.
From a few years ago.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. They're so good.
This game is easy when you draft well. The game is easy when you
take notes. Any other NFL
yeah,
team.
Seriously. And even I don't did they switch GMs recently? Because I feel like you could say take notes Texans.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't say they had the best track record of drafting, but yeah, boy did they turn it around.
Yeah.
This is a really fun team. CJ Stroud is special, man. Special. His young wide receivers are promising. I mean, they brought in some veteran presence too to help supplement it, like Dalton Schultz to play tight end. And everyone seemed to forgot about Laramie Tunsil, one of the best tackles in the league, protecting CJ Stroud without issue. And then you take a look at their defense. You mentioned Stingley, Will Anderson. I can't say enough about Will Anderson. It's a shame that he's the second best rookie on their team.
It's crazy.
He's one of the best rookies in the entire league thus far. And yeah, but he's going to be overshadowed by Stroud, but he has been incredible. They're a really fun team. And what more can you say about oh my God, I lost his name. Oh no. Texans head coach. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Are we on fraud alert?
We don't know ball. You hate to see it.
This sucks.
D'Amico Ryans.
That's his name.
That's on us. We'll wear that.
Wow, that's on us. We will wear it. But yeah, what more can you say about D'Amico Ryans, man? I mean, he was the 49ers defensive coordinator. Have they had any good defenses recently?
Yeah.
And then goes on to Houston a year after, mind you, they had the number 2 pick. They had the number 2 pick in the NFL. That's how bad they were last year. Now they're in the divisional round of the NFL.
Yeah. And on as much praise as we give the Texans, all good things come to an end for the Browns. Joe Flacco didn't look great this game. Numbers look decent, but those 2 picks ended up being costly mistakes. Basically had no running game whatsoever. The defense, the dominant Browns defense we've been talking about week in, week out. Myles Garrett being a potential DPOY. Where were they? CJ Stroud carved you up like a ham on Christmas Eve.
Let's go.
It was embarrassing. But where do the Browns go from here? Seriously, like you got Deshaun Watson tying up a lot of money. Like I seriously don't know where you go with this. I mean,
yeah, that's the problem, right? Because like you look at this team and you'd say, where do you go from here? Well, you go into next year because you'll get healthy next year, right? And you have your players back. But I'm not sure you want Deshaun Watson healthy. Like he's just been terrible. And you've seen what this Browns team can do with Joe Flacco playing quarterback, let alone someone good. I mean, I think obviously it sucks with the cap hit. I don't know if there's anything that can be done with that. But like this Browns team, can you imagine them with like a Kirk Cousins or something?
Yeah.
Like any of these impending free agent quarterbacks, like they would be a really damn good football team with some of these guys. But the quarterback is the big issue here. The defense is great. Of course, they didn't look great in this game, but the defense is great. The running game normally is great. Nick Chubb has been out for a while. And I think they had to just abandon the run so early because they were down so much in this game. And then figure out the quarterback. That seems to be the path forward for the Browns. And that is a lot easier said than done, as you said, with the amount of money wrapped up in Deshaun Watson. But I feel like this day belongs to the Texans. They
Absolutely.
they were awesome. That defense was awesome. You mentioned the 2 pick sixes. At that point, it seemed to be like, oh, Flacco, like you know, when you're like, oh, Grandpa, oh, time to go to bed. Like that's kind of what it felt like when Flacco was out there. But I think Browns fans still appreciate Flacco, and they still look back on the year and what a magical year it was for the Browns, and it's the Browns. So seasons like this don't come around often.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on Saturday night, we had the frozen tundra in Kansas City. Of course, the Midwest with record low temperatures. Miami went to Kansas City in below zero. I believe the actual temperature was like minus teens or
minus 30.
That was the real feel, right?
That was
the feel. The
yeah.
temperature was like in the minus teens. The feel was in minus 30. Yeah.
It's cold.
Miami Dolphins in their candy ass uniforms. They can't play in the cold. Definitely didn't look like it. Tua looked god awful, and the Chiefs won this one comfortably.
Yeah,
26-7 was the score.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd be lying if the weather didn't play a role in this one, but it's not like one was playing in 70-degree weather and the other was playing in minus 30. Both teams had to overcome the weather, and Kansas City just has more dog in them at the end of the day. I mean, when you have a coach literally has icicles coming from his beard, mustache, and then you got Mike McDaniel freezing literally in an icebox. I mean, it really is I think this was more of a mental win than anything, because I do think both teams were as good. I mean, we saw what this dominant offense can do of Miami. We saw what this offense can do with the Chiefs. I truly believe Kansas City had a tougher mentality. And I'd be lying to the listeners if I didn't think the weather did have an impact in this game.
Absolutely, you nailed it when you said mental win, because Kansas City wanted to be there. They were like, hell yeah, this is fun. Miami looked like they wanted to die. Every single one of them. There was not a player on that field who looked like they wanted anything to do with playing in that game, starting with Mike McDaniel. And we all love to joke about, oh, I love McDaniel. He's so funny. His attitude's great when you're winning. He's fun.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not, I don't know if he has it in him to lay into guys and be like, this isn't acceptable. We need to do better.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, as a motivator of men, how he is as a coach. And specifically this year when things spiraled south, because they had the East won. The Bills were dead. They were dead. They choked it.
Yeah.
All they had to do was win one game. Their collapse against Tennessee when they were up 14 with 2 minutes left on the clock. We were watching that on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
You win that game, this game's in Miami. But you didn't. You choked, so you had to go on the road. It's I question Mike McDaniel. Of course I question Tua. Oh my God, did he look terrible down the stretch.
Awful.
I question their toughness. I question everything about this Miami team. And we talked about, where do you go from here? Miami's got talent for days. They got talent across the board. That defense was banged up, of course. That is worth mentioning. You got to mention it. But this was an ass kicking. It was a complete domination all around. And the playoffs are played in January. I hate to break it to you, Mike McDaniel. Who knows? Maybe you can get a pass through all indoor stadiums. Maybe you can get the 1 seed and be home the entire time. I don't know. You're going to have to play outdoor games in January. So figure it out.
Yeah. Simple put.
And it confirmed our suspicions. The Dolphins absolutely were frauds. Not much more you can say about it. 264 yards of offense. They looked dead. They were dead. They were dead.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Sunday afternoon in the NFC. The Packers and Cowboys played. I'm sure you all know how this game went. I'm sure none of you live under a rock. But the final score was 48-32. Packers strolling into Jerry's world and beating the Cowboys. At this point, I will turn off my mic and I will turn it over to my co-host, Sam.
48-32 doesn't sound bad. But when you get 16 of those 32 in crunch time or in garbage time, when the Packers have had this one since halftime when they were up 27-7, it really was an ass kicking by the Packers. I'll start off game props where props is due. Matt LaFleur simply outcoached Mike Fatso McCarthy. I mean, let's put it how it is. What the Cowboys looked like shit. I mean, we supposedly had this great defense, right? Micah Parsons, still dog. But Stephon Gilmore got cooked multiple times. Probably one of the worst defensive plays I've seen since Jamari Harris for Iowa played cornerback. But Jordan Love looked good, really good in this one. We praised CJ Stroud in their game. Jordan Love put damn near exact numbers: 16 for 21, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, it's amazing what happens when you give him the ball. 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. So that's the only love I'm gonna give the Packers. They kicked our ass, and I tip cap where tipping the cap is due. But looking on the Cowboy side of things, what the fuck that? Like, bro, there's been a narrative around you for the entire season. Can he protect the ball? And you did that. You did that. So props to you for not throwing 10 interceptions in the regular season. But when the lights get brightest, you shit the bed 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, this dude looked like shit. 2 interceptions. You have 3 touchdowns, but how many of those were when the game was already decided at? That's what I'm saying. Tony Pollard, where were you? 56 yards. I thought you were supposed to be the next great running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Nope, clearly not. Ceedee Lamb, not a single touchdown, 110 yards. Okay, cool. But what is probably the most concerning is it seemed like Green Bay had the ball for 3/4 of the entire game. I think their first drive was half or more, slightly more than half the first quarter. It's from what I've heard and what I've seen, our defense was really good, but clearly not this game. It seemed the Cowboys were just happy to have home field advantage. Everyone thought, oh, Cowboys home, Packers don't have a chance. It seemed like the Cowboys already won this one in their head. And the Packers said, boy, you got another thing coming. Packers dominated and simply put, outright embarrassed the Cowboys when they had legitimately Super Bowl aspirations, and they shit the bed when the lights were bright.
I really, really hope that people don't end up just looking at the stats in this game and looking at Dak's end stats and being like, wow.
Yeah.
Because he was not bad. He was pitiful in this game. He was terrible in this game. 2 crucial picks. One goes for a pick 6. Constantly missing Ceedee Lamb. Him and
Ceedee, something happened.
They look like they want to kill each other.
I'm waiting for some locker room drama because you know it's gonna come out at some point.
It was crazy. Like, we just went through everything that Ceedee did this year earlier in the episode, namely the number of catches, like 135 catches or something like that. And they were not on the same page whatsoever. They looked like they wanted nothing to do with each other. Really perplexing. And it was elite stat padding by Dak. I guess you got to give him that, right? 400 plus, multiple touchdowns in a game to which they were never in.
Mhm.
So that's pretty impressive stuff from Dak in terms of the stat padding goes. But he was terrible in this game. The defense, man. Oh, my goodness. This was a Dallas defense that seemed to take the ball away from opponents all the time.
Mhm.
Of course, we all know they were without Trayvon Diggs through the entirety of the year. But Stephon Gilmore got cooked all day long in this game. He was burnt toast in this game. Galen Clark, she messed up, but he was toast all game long. It seemed like the pass rush didn't get home whatsoever. Micah Parsons did get a couple holding calls though, so
that was cool.
that was cool. Yeah, the team did just completely crap their pants. Like, a lot of these teams, we say, oh, we knew the Dolphins were frauds. Oh, like we knew that like Joe Flacco would catch up to him or something.
Mm-hmm.
This performance out of the Cowboys was shocking. Shocking. There was nothing throughout the regular season that pointed to this would be the case. And yeah, this is where we are. Taking a look at the Packers. State of the Union address to all NFC North fans. I'm officially labeling it. We're at DEFCON 2. We're at DEFCON 2. If somehow, some way, the Packers beat the 49ers next week, we are at full DEFCON 1. Go in your bunker. Nuclear war is about to happen. But we're at DEFCON 2 because, wow. Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur seem to be a match made in heaven. Watching this game, Jordan Love was good. I think people are maybe overrating the performance out of Jordan Love a little bit. His receivers were wide open. It was a Matt LaFleur masterclass. I'll say he completely and legitimately wiped the floor with Mike McCarthy's everything. He just used him as a mop all game long, and completely outcoached Mike McCarthy. That is without a doubt.
100%.
But Jordan Love did everything he needed to do. He was on time. He was on target. A lot of quarterbacks wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Jordan Love did. Of course, do I think he's going to be the third Hall of Fame quarterback? I'm not ready to say that yet. But he looks good. Him and Matt LaFleur seem like they like each other, which is different than Aaron Rodgers. Him and his wide receivers look like they like each other, different than Aaron Rodgers. And he's throwing the ball to literal nobodies. The Packers wide receiving core is full of nobodies. Christian Watson wasn't even healthy in this. He did play, but he didn't look healthy in this game. They had like Jaden Reed, who's been like a pretty good little piece, but like something Melton, I think that these guys are not good.
No.
And the Packers are scoring 48 points in a playoff game.
Again, supposedly one of the best defenses.
So that's where I'm at right now. NFC North fans, we're at a DEFCON 2. Potential to go do a full-on DEFCON 1 here in a week. But hopefully the 49ers can maintain their 49er ways and be the Packers are to the Bears what the 49ers are to the Packers. So hopefully that can. But anything else you want to get off about this disappointing performance from your Cowboys?
No, just embarrassing.
It is, we will say, it is currently Tuesday night, January 16th, and Mike McCarthy still has a job. Yeah. So we will keep that tracker for you guys. Believe it or not, Sam has an opinion on Mike McCarthy. I'll let you figure out what that is.
Yeah. I mean, if there's no playoffs, dude, we're like kicking ass.
We're on Super Bowl watch.
We're on Super Bowl watch.
You're thinking soupy.
But the minute we enter postseason, it's over.
It's over.
It's over, man. Good coach, but breaks when it matters most, and that's just not a coach you need to have with this amount of talent. I mean, Dak, I still think Dak's a good quarterback. Obviously some question marks around when lights get brightest, but we've seen him play a hell of his football season. I'm not putting too much emphasis. Obviously, they're pitiful this game, but positive outlook, I guess. He improves this season. But I think like I said before, Mike McCarthy got outcoached when it mattered most, and that's really concerning. Jerry Jones, we all saw Jerry Jones's comments after the game. Absolutely disappointing. One of the worst losses the Cowboys has ever seen. I don't think Mike's gonna be around much longer. I think Jerry Jones basically handed him a team uh, on a silver platter this year. It seemed like, obviously, as much of a meme as Trayvon Diggs is, he was a vital part of this defense. But I think they move on to who? I don't know. There's a lot of options out there, but it's going to be an interesting next couple months seeing who they bring in, if they bring in anyone or if they still ride with Mike. But I think it's time to move on because you've given him multiple years and it's the same result year in, year out. When it comes to playoffs, you look good in the regular season, but when it matters most, you crumble.
Yeah. I mean, this one is you said the same thing year over year. Yeah, the end in losses, but last year you had to go to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't favored in that game.
Yeah.
You didn't win it. What was the year? Was the year for that was San Francisco too, wasn't it? You weren't favored in that game. Yeah. You didn't win it. Like, it happens. This one hurts. You were big time favorites, and this is the big time stinger. But moving on, let's stay in the NFC North and take a look up in Detroit, where the place was absolutely popping for the Lions' first playoff game in a very long time, the first home playoff game in a very long time. And they got their first playoff win in a very long time. For the first time in history, Lions fans texted each other about a playoff win for the Detroit Lions. They beat the Rams, of course. We all know the storyline. Goff versus Stafford, Rams versus Lions. 24-23. Lions got this one.
Yeah. You mentioned very long time. It was 32 years. Absolutely insane. But this game was awesome. We saw textbook Matt Stafford in this one. 25 for 36, 367 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was banged up the entire game. Like, it wasn't even a question. You could see him wincing, getting up every play. But this Lions team is fun, man. Jared Goff, nice little revenge game, bud. It's always fun seeing those revenge games. We saw a couple actually in the wild card. But this one was one of the best. I think it's one of the best of the entire wild card weekend. It was electric, came down the wire. Lions and Rams battle. Stafford, Goff. Goff came up on top. But these were. I just want to go back to the Rams. Puka Nacua.
He is unbelievable.
Unfreaking believable. 9 receptions, 181 yards, one side. Oh, and they still have Cooper Kupp. Obviously didn't perform like we're supposed to, but keep them together. This Rams team's gonna be scary. Obviously, big question mark with their offenses. That rushing attack seems they have literally none. But the Lions, man, they are as legit as we thought. Jared Goff looking fantastic, only at 5 incompletions, 0 interceptions. That's what we always highlight. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. It's amazing what happens when you give Jahmyr Gibbs the ball.
I know, right?
Both on the rushing attack and the the receiving attack. Amon-Ra St. Brown looking like a bona fide superstar at the receiver position. Josh Reynolds even getting in on the action this game. Laporta was banged up, still got his. It's this team's scary, and their defense is back. Help it. They're playing very complimentary football. Dan Campbell, we didn't see his crazy aggressive tactics in this one, and it helped the Lions get that huge first playoff win in 32 years.
Yeah, I mean, both quarterbacks were awesome. We felt like that was going to be the case going into this game. They were. Matt Stafford can absolutely still play. He was beat to crap in this game. Again, not quite sure how he went back after that big time hit. Against he got hit like 3 or 4 times on that play. But with those 2 wide receivers, you're right. The offense can still hum. I think Kyren Williams is a pretty good running back. They can figure some things out schematically and maybe get a little bit beefier on the O-line, but Kyren Williams can absolutely play. The defense is a bit of an issue. You lost your Jalen Ramsey, you lost your Leonard Floyd, like all the big names. They had Von Miller on that Super Bowl team as well. Obviously, you still have Aaron Donald. A lot of the names on that team are gone, though, so the defense is a little bit of a concern, but that offense can absolutely still hum. On the Lions side of things, talk about the Goff revenge game. We talk about the Stafford revenge game. No one's talking about the Josh Reynolds revenge game. The former Ram put up big numbers against the Rams, especially with all respect to Josh Reynolds. 5 receptions for 80 yards. He was critical in getting those first couple series started. Detroit jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and I think in those 2 drives he had like 40 receiving yards.
Yeah,
big time getting this offense moving. Jahmyr Gibbs was awesome. The game was won in one specific area, and that's red zone defense from the Lions. The Rams had 2 bombs for touchdowns, 3 trips to the red zone, 3 field goals. That's their 23. 2 touchdowns on bombs, 3 field goals in the red zone. Those are touchdowns. The Rams win this easily. The Lions, 3 trips to the red zone, 3 touchdowns. That's the difference in the game.
That's the difference.
That Lions defense, again, they're not going to be one of the best defenses in the league. They're not going to completely shut down teams. But if they can limit to 3, this Lions team will be very scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to Monday, we had the Bills and the Steelers. They're also played in pretty tumultuous weather. This game was postponed from Sunday because of snow and cold and pretty dangerous conditions. But they played on Monday. The Bills ended up beating the Steelers 31-17.
Yeah. This doesn't look like a complete domination by the Bills, but it was. It was an absolute domination. It's 21-7 at half, 24-10. I mean, it got a little interesting there in the 4th, but Josh Allen, what a game, young fella. Had tremendous game, 230 yards, 3 tuds, 21 for 30. And had one of the craziest runs I've ever seen, busted open for a like 50 to 60 yard run. Absolutely crazy. James Cook getting his Dalton Kincaid. It seemed every time he was wide open for like a 20-yard reception. But yeah, it just, I mean, kind of went as at least I expected. I didn't give the Steelers much hope, to be honest with you, Tanner, especially with the loss of TJ Watt. But we all saw the post game comments by George Pickens, and I mean, I wouldn't say it was that egregious. I wasn't like, oh my God, these refs are totally screwed. I mean, the penalties were 6-2, and it was only a difference of 25 yards. Obviously, there's gonna be missed calls every game, but it at least to me, I don't know about you, Tanner, but it seemed like it wasn't as bad as the Steelers made it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could say what George Pickens said about a lot of games.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is the one I'd say it about, just because, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the refs played as big of a role as maybe George Pickens thought. But yes, this game went exactly how I thought it would. Bills were pretty much in control the entire way. Man, this Bills offense, they scored 31 points on the Steelers, one of the better defenses in the league, granted without DJ Watt, but they scored 31 on the Steelers. Josh Allen using his legs, 74 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Josh Allen hasn't really gotten the ball to Stephon Diggs much either.
Mm-hmm.
So this offense has another gear, it seems like, that they haven't hit yet, that they're waiting to hit. And obviously within the coming weeks, it looks like that will be achieved. But looking at the Steelers, man, they're in a nasty, nasty state of purgatory right now.
Yeah.
There's either two ways. You either got to take a step back and tank, or you got to push the chips in. And it seems to me like the move here is push the chips in with the defense you got, with some of these receivers you got. I mean, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are a great one, too.
Mm-hmm.
Your running backs are a great one, too. Seems like maybe this is the time to push the chips in, trade for Justin Fields, sign a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Like, do something like that, because I don't think Pickett's the answer, and I don't think Mason Rudolph's the answer. So figure it out in Pittsburgh, because you need something to elevate this team, because right now they're a year in and year out. Didn't even mean to make the Pittsburgh Yins joke there, but they're a year in and year out, 10-8, 10-7, wild card round exit. So figure it out in Pittsburgh. You need to do something. But Buffalo looks they look incredibly scary right now. Seems like we're on a crash course for Ravens Bills in the AFC Championship game, and I absolutely need that.
Yeah.
But to wrap up the Super Wildcard weekend, we had the Philadelphia Eagles. They traveled to Tampa, of course, after they collapsed and lost the division. They took on the Bucs, and my God, did the Philadelphia Eagles complete the greatest collapse in NFL history. A team that was 10-1, Sam, 10-1, beat the Chiefs in a rematch of the Super Bowl, was on top of the world. They lost 32-9 in the wild card round. Went 1-7 in their last 8 games, including the playoff game. Finished the year 11-7. Absolute disaster for Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest frauds of this year, by far, Eagles won, Dolphins too. I like you said, the Eagles were off to a hot start. And let's not act like this Bucs team is something special. I mean, call me a average NFL fan, but let me just read you who their leading receivers are. K. Dotton. Who?
Yeah.
Respectfully. David Moore. Trey Palmer. Mike Evans, I know that guy. Chris Godwin. Hayne Durham.
Yeah. I think the big thing here is that K. Dotton, David Moore, and Trey Palmer were above Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
In this game.
But
and 2 of those 3 caught touchdowns.
Yeah. Obviously, it's been a crazy ride for Baker Mayfield in his NFL career. Started out Cleveland, led them to playoffs, looked to be the franchise guy in Cleveland. He seemed won a playoff game, seemed to be the guy. Absolutely gets screwed by the Browns. Deshaun Watson comes up, sign him, send Baker off to Carolina. Carolina, how about another mistake by Carolina, letting him go? I mean, he was getting defensive line reps last year in practice.
I saw that. Yeah. What an unserious franchise.
And then you go to Tampa Bay. He's balling. I love it. I've always been a Baker fan since his college days. It's good to see him win, especially when he's playing the Cowboys' biggest rivals, the Eagles. And absolutely embarrassing him. Played a phenomenal game. 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. It was just freaking awesome. And I loved every minute of it, Tanner. I'm not gonna lie to you.
As did I. Seems like both the NFC East teams, their weekend was made better by the other's loss. But definitely a lot to fall back on if you're one of these NFC. Oh my God, what an insane pass by Caitlin Clark. But if you're a fan of one of these teams, an absolute. There's no other words to describe this. 10-1. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC. They had just beaten the Chiefs. They were on top. You have the video of Sirianni saying, like, yelling at Chiefs fans, like, what are you going to say now? Like, oh, man, this Eagles defense was one of the worst I have ever seen play on a football field. This is like rivals the Vikings defense of last year. They couldn't tackle anybody. The amount of yards
so
after
bad.
catch in this Tampa Bay game was insanity. I've never seen anything like it. It is absolutely the greatest collapse. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just indescribable how fast and how far this team fell. And of course, you have to think Nick Sirianni is out as head coach.
Yeah.
You have to think that they're gonna move on from him because it's ridiculous what this team went through. And as bad as it was for Philly, I do think we need to take a second to talk about something on the positive side and celebrate the career of Jason Kelce, who decided to retire after this season. A much deserved retirement. Bro put in it was like 16 seasons with the Eagles, 14 seasons, something like that. Playing center, no less. Incredibly physically demanding position, and won a Super Bowl for the team. And of course, we all know what he wore on the Super Bowl parade.
Legend,
a legend, an Eagles legend, a surefire Hall of Famer. So congrats on a great career, Jason Kelce. Definitely deserves to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. It was embarrassing for the Eagles regarding just their team as a whole. Absolutely collapsed. Also, gosh, shout out Hawkeyes when they play well. Tristan Wirfs, vital part of that offensive line for those Buccaneers. Saw a lot of Josh Sweat, one of the dominant forces on that Eagles. He went to Sweat on 25 pass attempts, and Wirfs only allowed 1 quarterback pressure on those plays. Mayfield seemed to have all the time in the world. I'm trying to look for the yards after catch. I did see at the end of the first quarter, the Buccaneers had 90 yards after catch. So that just shows you what type of game this was.
Not great. Certainly a puzzling end to the season for the Eagles, and they have a lot to reflect on going into this offseason.
I ain't really mad, though.
No, of course not. I ain't mad at all. Nick Sirianni, have fun in the unemployment line, you absolute corny bozo.
Yeah.
But that sets us up for the divisional round. I'm super excited for it. We're going to kick it off on Saturday afternoon. The Texans play the Ravens. So that will be pretty fun. I believe these teams played in week 1. So
yeah.
And of course, it was a shit pumping for the Ravens because the Texans week 1 with CJ Stroud, they hadn't found their form yet.
CJ Stroud had a terrible preseason.
Yeah, they haven't found their form yet, so surely this game will be different. Then on Saturday night, I believe we get Packers Niners. I mentioned that.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Big time. I mentioned the storylines before. 49ers seem to always have the Packers number, and the Packers get the monkey off their back. Who knows? Then on Sunday afternoon, we get the Lions and Buccaneers. Should be a pretty fun game there. I mean, and then, of course, Sunday night, the big one, Chiefs Bills. Definitely the big ticket item.
Hopefully there's not a super cool play or anything.
Yeah, because then you just can't call it that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't call it. But definitely also worth noting that play is the only reason this game is in Buffalo and not in Kansas City.
Wow.
If Kadarius Toney had lined up on sides, this game would be in
That's a
Kansas
tough
City.
pill to swallow.
That is a tough pill to swallow, for sure.
Brutal.
But it's not. It's in Buffalo, and Bills Mafia will be live to avenge that loss in the divisional round a few years ago. Of course, we all know the 13 seconds. But I'm super excited for this divisional round. But before we wrap up the episode, it's been a long one. So much to talk about. And this is only football. So much to talk about. Before we wrap up, we do need to touch on some of the NFL head coaching carousel like we did in college. So some of the big names, the Seahawks, they parted ways with Pete Carroll in a surprising move. The Titans, also a surprising move, fired Mike Vrabel. Yeah, we don't understand that one. I have yet to see someone who does understand that one. Titans, what are you doing? Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. He will not be out of a job for very long. No. The Commanders, of course, fired Ron Rivera in the most obvious move I don't know, maybe the most obvious head coaching move I've ever seen. The Falcons let go of Arthur Smith. Chargers, of course, Brandon Staley they did that during the year. Panthers with Frank Reich did that during the year. Raiders, Josh McDaniels did that during the year. Antonio Pierce was awesome as their interim head coach. Have yet to name him their full-time head coach. If only the Raiders had a precedent of an interim head coach who did a great job and they went and hired someone else and they didn't do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. And then lastly, in the big shocker, Bill Belichick and the Patriots decide to part ways.
Yeah.
So, a lot of open spots, Sam. Any of those? I mean, I feel like the most surprising. I was going to ask the most surprising. It's got to be Mike Vrabel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like he was leading the Titans in the right direction, led Will Levis to kind of revitalize that offense I was struggling with Ryan Tannehill. Very interesting move by the Titans. It seemed like they finally kind of got their team going, and then they cut the head of the snake off, and it's gonna be interesting who comes in and can he do a better job.
He probably won't.
Yeah.
Because again, Mike Vrabel's one of the best in the sport, and the test of should I fire my head coach? Will he be hired? And I would say there are maybe 4 or 5 teams in the NFL who would rather keep their head coach than hire Mike Vrabel. It's just the way it is. So I can't fathom it personally. But a lot of open spots. Well, Patriots actually isn't open. They gave it to Gerard Mayo, a former player under Bill Belichick. So looks like that was figured out rather quickly. But everything else, I believe, is still open. So
yeah, I know. Speaking of Michigan and their run, Jim Harbaugh seems to be on his way out. He completed a interview with the Falcons, who's interviewing, it seems like everybody. They interviewed Belichick. They just completed an interview with Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh like 30 minutes ago.
Wow.
So breaking news. But to be honest with you, Tanner, as terrible as or how I don't even know how to say this, how big of an underperformance this team has been, I still think the Chargers are one of the more intriguing teams.
Absolutely.
Especially, I mean, when you have a guy like Justin Herbert.
It's got to be. We use a team, a head coach's dream is a team that has the quarterback situation figured out. And that's exactly what the Chargers have. I personally believe that is where Harbaugh will go to the Chargers. I believe,
why wouldn't you?
Right. I feel like that's where
Seems
he goes.
like they have the most upside for sure.
I'm not entirely sure where Mike Vrabel goes. I believe another one of my predictions. I think the Commanders will get the Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. I believe is going to the Commanders. But some of these others, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know
could
who they're
see
targeting.
Vrabel maybe going to the Seahawks.
Yeah,
I don't know. That just seems like a good fit.
that would
Good fit to me.
make sense.
But yeah, I don't think he'll be out of a job
No,
for
he
long.
shouldn't and he won't.
But as for the other guys on this list, don't think they're gonna get hired as a head coach.
Probably not. They're probably going to spend a little time as a coordinator before hopefully building up the resume to, again, become a head coach. But that's going to wrap it up for episode 115 of Crunch Time. Congrats. You have made it to the end. And this is a big accomplishment because this was a long one, as we said. So much to talk about. Figured we just get it all out of the way and make a long episode because we have been away for so long. But we are so happy to be back. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. Make sure to follow the podcast on X, on TikTok, and on Instagram at crunchtime_pod. And subscribe to us on YouTube, Crunch Time with the N326 duo. You can follow Sam at
on X, Sam Godsey 29, Instagram Sam_Godsey 21.
You can follow me on X and Instagram at tdislin22. The clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.
Yar.